everybody. I'm Linda Schulte with Schulte Realty. I'm the broker owner of Schulte Realty in the Central Florida area. And today I'm with my good friend, Rayce Robinson with Mid-Florida Mortgage Professionals. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me come.
So today I'm going to be talking everything about mortgages and having real talk with Rayce here. So, Rayce, one of the things that happens a lot with some of my customers, they call me up and they say, hey, I'd love to buy a house, but I don't have perfect credit. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Does somebody have to have perfect credit?
I would say thank God no, because very few people have perfect credit. And probably there's the biggest question I get, what's my credit? It doesn't matter. I would say, so obviously if you have the higher credit score, you can get a better rate, right? But we can do FHAs down to a 550 credit score. And for us, part of the pre-approval process is we're gonna take that client and see what we can do in the short term to move their credit up or put them in a loan program where credit isn't as big as a factor. So yes, is it better to have good credit and work on that? For sure. But will it eliminate you being able to buy a house? For most people, no. And if their score is too low, we'll help them, create a plan to get their score up to where they need to be. Okay,
well, it's a good thing you just brought up. So if somebody doesn't have what they consider to be perfect credit, do you have any tips that somebody could, how they could increase their credit score?
Sure, good question. I get, people always, even if they have a 750 score, they're asking me, how do I get to 800, right? Everybody wants to know how to get a higher score. So in general, in the short term, there's not a ton you can do. You can pay down revolving debt, right? So you don't want any credit cards that are maxed out or full balance, right? So you can do that. You don't want any, obviously, late payments. Now, do you know what a late payment is considered when someone's late on a payment?
I would say anything past 1 day.
No, 30 days.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, oh my God, I've had all these late payments, and I look at their credit and they have none. So it's only if you go 30 days late that it's going to impact your credit. So the credit scoring in the short term, we can maybe up it for some people 40, 50, 60 points. If you have a lot of old credit that's negative, then we have professionals, you can find them online, that actually work with your credit and over a 6 or 8 month period, get your score up to where you can buy a house.
Okay, perfect. Another thing too that I've learned about credit is some people here, they go on the internet and they do their own research. And so I always think you better be careful about what you see on the internet. So one of the questions that's asked, like, hey, I have an old debt from a medical, for instance, and they'll say, I'm gonna go pay that off. What do you suggest if someone's looking at their credit and they think, oh, let me go do what I heard one of these gurus say?
Right.
I always say, don't do anything, contact your mortgage professional and let them talk to you. What do you say about that?
I would say that's great advice. So if someone's asking, what do I need to do? What action should I take? Is talk to a professional. So if you're looking to buy a house, talk to me. Talk to somebody that's used to looking at credit for the purpose of buying a house, because we actually wouldn't have you pay a collection off, right? Where if you were looking to buy a year from now, maybe we would. So a lot of it's going to depend on the time frame, what you're trying to accomplish, and what's going on with your credit. So I think what you don't want to do is do a bunch of things on your credit and then find out, whoops, I should have did something different.
Gotcha. So you did mention time frame.
Right.
So that's really important thing. So another question I get a lot of times is, when should I start the process? I'm looking to buy a house. When should I start the process, and how long does it take? So let's start with the first question. How long does it, when should they start the process, say they're looking to buy a home?
I would say if you know you want to buy a home in the next 12 to even 24 months, it's at least worth having a conversation. We're going to approach that client a lot differently, right? We're going to be more about building a long-term plan so they know what the target is. Most people that reach out to us are usually within 6 months, right? Because then they're really worried. And then, we get some calls where they call you and the next day they're like, we want to buy a house. So everyone's different. But I would say 4 to 6 months would be the perfect time.
4 to 6 months. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's another thing too, that some people they think that, let me go out and look at homes first,
right?
And then I'll go get with a lender and get my credit done and blah blah blah. So what do you suggest to people that are what do you suggest that they do before they say, hey, I found a house, let's go buy it?
I mean, the people, I always say, they want to talk to a lender so they know their buying power. They're not wasting time as far as looking at houses that they don't want a payment that high. But let's face it, they want to call the fun person, right? They want to call the real estate agent, like, yay, let's go look at a house. Where me, it's like, okay, let's look at your finances, what you qualify for. So I think in general, a lot of times they're going to reach out to an agent, right, to kind of have that conversation. But pretty quickly, they need to figure out what their buying power is, how much money they're going to need, what are they going to qualify for, are there special programs?
Right.
And so, that's to me the main goal of meeting with a client is giving them all their options.
Okay. Yeah, everybody asks, who should I contact first, the lender or should I contact the real estate agent? Of course, I'm always going to say contact the real estate agent, me, and then I'm going to set you up with the best lender that's possible for you. So a couple things that came up listening to what you said before is you mentioned the word FHA. I think you said VA, and there's USDA. There's all these different acronyms you just tossed out at us,
True.
let alone conventional. Can you tell us a little bit about each one of these programs that we just talked about, different type of loan programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a lot of different acronyms that I got to be acronyms, FHA, VA. So I would say a good way to think about them is buckets. So there's a lot of buckets for different clients, and not everyone is going to fit in the same bucket. So a buyer with perfect credit, lots of money, they may fit in one bucket. Another borrower that needs maybe down payment assistance or help in that end will be in a different bucket. Maybe somebody's self-employed or they can't show a lot of income, they're going to be in a different bucket. So it's really, and obviously a veteran would have their own. So really that's, to me, part of the pre-approval process is to figure out where is the best bucket or best path to be taking, not only to get the best deal on the mortgage, but to be able to successfully go through the process and buy a home.
And that's exactly why we want you to talk to a lender, because you're going to know the best path. Because sometimes they qualify for a conventional, but an FHA is going to be better for them. So I know conventional and FHA, there's down payments that you need to do for each one of them. Can you do a little bit of a myth buster? I hear from people.
I love that show.
I know, I do too. I've heard from people like, I can't buy a house because I don't have 20% to put down. So what would you tell people about saying, hey, I need to have 20% to put down before I can buy a home?
Yeah, I get that a lot. So the only benefit of putting 20% down is there's a thing called mortgage insurance that the lender makes you carry if you're not putting 20% down. You can eliminate that mortgage insurance, which may be $150 to $200 a month. So there is a benefit for putting 20% down. Let's face it, most people don't have 20%. Right? I didn't on my first house.
Right.
So we can go on a conventional loan, and conventional means it's insured by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. FHA is insured by FHA. They're all government GSEs. So on a conventional loan, you can put as low as 3% down. A lot of people don't know that. On an FHA, 3.5%, and then USDA and VA, 100%, right? And then there's special programs like bond and different things that we can actually get the down payment covered. So again, it just depends on what path fits best for that client.
Okay, gotcha. Now, there are programs out there that you mentioned, down payment assistance. What kind of programs are there available? I guess really it's first-time home buyers. That's what I get asked that question a great deal. Like, I'm a first-time home buyer. What kind of programs are available for me?
Yeah, and so first of all, first-time home buyer is defined as somebody who hasn't bought a house in the last
3 years.
3 years. Yeah, that's right. So you don't have to be like you've never bought a house, first of all. And then there are county-funded down payment assistance. There's grant programs. There's a 100% FHA loan program. And then there's like the USDA, which is like for agricultural areas, like in Geneva and our area out in Claremont and certain areas. So there are programs that mainly help with the down payment. And then on those programs, they also have a little less monthly payment because the mortgage insurance is cheaper and the rates tend to be a little more competitive.
Okay, so this is another great reason why you should call the lender, the professional, and talk to them about that. So there's another thing that I just learned about actually, because everybody talks about a reverse mortgage, and that's usually for somebody who's older, that they can get a reverse mortgage on their current home. So it's really like a refinance. Well, I just learned something new. You can do a reverse mortgage on your purchase of a home.
100%.
Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, and you figure in Florida, we live in a lot of seniors, a lot of people move down here. So the idea of reverse mortgage, if you think about it, a forward mortgage is a mortgage where you get a balance, right? And then you pay it off every month. That's a regular forward mortgage, what everybody does. A reverse mortgage is the opposite. They give you a little bit of balance, and then they're giving you money every month, right? So basically it's going to depend on your age. You got to be 62 and older. It's going to depend on your residual income and equity and some other calculations. We typically do those as an FHA loan, and you want it to be, you be in a house that's like your forever house. So the biggest myth in reverse mortgages is that if, like, my mom was going to do a reverse mortgage, so let's say that for whatever reason she lived a lot longer, she lived to 100, and she ended up using all of her equity, because on a reverse mortgage there's no monthly payment, and my mom either would have got a lump sum or a monthly payment every month, or a line of credit she could use to pull money out but would never have a payment. At some point that will go to the heirs, right, me and my brother, and then if the house was upside down at that point, we wouldn't be penalized. And really, we give my mom a better quality of life because she would have money and no monthly payment while she was alive.
All right. Well, it sounds like an excellent program for a lot of people that are 62 and over. So again, this is something, if you're 62 and above, it's something you're considering, definitely check in with your mortgage person, Rayce Robinson, and see if that's a possibility for you or not. So, one of the other things too, since I have your attention here today, is what are the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's beginning the process of, hey, I want to buy a house in the next 3 months to 24 months? What are the top 3 pieces of advice you would give that person?
So the number one advice, which would be easy, would be to call somebody like me, because there could be more than one thing, right? It could be they have money saved up and we want to pay debt down a little bit. Maybe in their case, we need to get more funds for a down payment. Maybe we need to help them get a cosigner. So first I would say, a lot of people think if they're going to call someone like me, we're going to have to pull credit and go through this whole process. It really is a conversation, because I can talk to someone pretty quickly and say, okay, there's no point in starting the process. Let's focus on the plan. So I would say, you can pull your credit through some of these free credit places. So maybe get a general idea of what's going on with your credit. You definitely want to be saving up money for the down payment. And then the third part is, if a lot of people realize they don't have their income, they're first-time home buyers, they haven't got to the point yet where they're making a ton of money. So maybe talking to a mother, a father, an uncle, a grandparent to be a cosigner, because you can have what we call a non-occupying co-borrower, somebody that's not going to live in the house, help somebody that's going to buy a house.
Okay, well, good. It sounds like you have a lot of tools in your belt to be able to help somebody out with buying a house and making it a possibility, the dream a possibility. So it's real important that people give you a shout and talk to you about what's the possibilities, because there's everything from down payment assistance programs. There's even the possibility of doing gift money from somebody on occasion. So one thing that's real important is I know I've worked with you for a long time, and I want you to tell everybody, I know what it is, but I want you to tell everybody what makes your process at your company, what's the process that makes you different than everybody else out there, that makes you so successful, and why our closings are so smooth.
All right, so what makes us different, basically? Why would someone work with us over someone else? So good question. So I would say, in my mind, it boils down to 3 things. One, people want somebody to actually talk to them, pay attention to the details, educate them a little bit, right? They go online, they see all this stuff. Someone to really focus in on their situation, what programs do they qualify for, their scenario. 2, once they go to contract, before they go to contract, this, it's a process. They're out looking at homes, they're out trying to figure out what payments are, and having someone that's accessible, that actually can speak with them, takes a lot of stress off, right? Because a lot of lenders, especially big banks, will pre-approve somebody. There's no Mr. Bank of America to call and be like, hey. So it's really a process where people get really nervous about. So we're there, we're accessible, we walk them through the process, we educate them. And then the third thing is, we're a mortgage broker business. So I don't work for the bank, I work for the client. So I go out there and find the best lender, lowest cost, lowest rate. And people want the best they want a mortgage, but they also want transparency, they want to be educated, and they want to have a great experience.
Perfect. All right, well, great. One thing that's real important is, tell us, how do people get a hold of you? If they want to do a phone call or fill out an application, we'll have all the information on the screen here for them to do that. But tell us how to get in touch with you.
Well, they'll have my phone number, so I would say the simple way is call me personally. Let's have a conversation. I do have a really good YouTube channel. You can Google Rayce Robinson. I have hundreds and hundreds of reviews online. I say do your research, right? If you're getting referred to people, which people will you refer someone else will refer someone, we have this incredible thing called Google, and Google that person. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't even matter what you say. What do all the other people say about working with that person? So do your research. With YouTube, it lets people kind of see my opinion on how to get the best on a mortgage and my thought process. More importantly, just call me personally, and I'll answer the phone, and we can have a conversation.
All right, and that's what I like, is personalized service available on the weekends. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back. You don't mind sticking around for a while, do you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, we'll be right back.